Hello everyone, welcome back to Alchemy Ias NCRT live session. In the previous session, we have completed the Civic NCRT 6th standard chapters. So if you haven't yet watched those classes, the classes regarding the chapters, all the chapters of the 6th standard NCRT is available in our YouTube channel. If you are subscribing to our channel, there is a separate playlist is there, and if you can go through that playlist, you can see the classes that we have already recorded and uploaded in that platform. Now from today onwards, we will start with our 7th standard NCRT, and we will start from the first chapter here, the chapter on equality. This concept equality in our NCRT chapter number 1 in the 7th standard, this concept, understanding the concept of equality is very important for our exam perspective, especially for the prelims and the mains perspective, the concepts, the equality. What exactly mean by the term equality and what are the provisions according to Indian constitution which is mentioned regarding the equality, its meaning, and some examples of different other countries where they have faced many issues associated with the concept of equality. These are the area that we will study in this particular chapter. If you are ready, then we can start our session. So this is our 7th standard NCRT. Now recently there is a high demand for the NCRT sessions, NCRT classes. That way the Alchemy Ias started with this series. So we have other series like NCRT Geography, NCRT History. So you can also watch those videos related to history and geography. This is specifically for Indian polity, civic, NCRT. We will start the session. So you can go through the content in this chapter. So this chapter has been given a title that is on equality. So we will study regarding the concept of equality here through this chapter. If anything relevant point I have highlighted in this PDF, so which are very much important and we have to note it down for our exam perspective. If you are preparing any short note based on this NCRT, that will be good for your exam perspective. Coming back to this first paragraph, equality in Indian democracy. So do we have a concept like equality in our Indian democratic system? So then how this system, Indian democratic system, is guarantee this equality concepts, and how our legal system is protecting this important concept of equality is covered under these aspects, that is equality in our Indian democracy. We start with the reference to the Indian constitution. Indian constitution, the constitution is mean by the law, that is the supremacy of the constitution, the supreme law, that this law will restrict and regulate the functions of the government, and we have a government and this government can only function according to that constitution. We study these aspects in our 6th standard NCRT. So this will be the continuity of that as well. So the constitution is there, and this constitution of India, which is a written constitution, and this constitution recognize that everyone, that's every person as equal. Everyone must be treated as equal. And there is no any privilege. There is an absence of privilege. Nobody enjoy any privilege, whether you belong to any higher caste, whether you belong to a religion which is a majority religion, whether you belong to a community which they speak a different language, nobody enjoy any special privilege. Even if you are occupying a like kind of a status that you were earlier belonging to a royal family, then no one enjoy any special privilege according to constitution, that it recognizes that the concept of equality, that is every person as equal. And this means that every individual in this country, including male, female, any other gender, all these persons are equally will be treated in front of the law. So there will not be any discrimination in terms of the caste, religion, tribes. Then you will get equal opportunity in terms of if there is any opportunity for education and access to primary, secondary level, higher level educations. So you will get equal access to education services, economic background. No one will be discriminated on the basis of your backwardness in maybe socially, educationally, economically you are backward. So irrespective of this, everyone will be treated equally. That is mentioned in this first paragraph. Again we will read this one. Indian constitution that recognize every person as equal. This means that every individual in the country, including male and female, person from all caste, religion, tribes, educational and economic background are recognized as equal. So, no one will be discriminated, everyone will be treated equally in front of the law. That is recognized by our Indian constitution. So, we have a concept equality, and that even today it is recognized as one of the fundamental right, and the first fundamental right to equality. Under this article, like right to equality is guaranteed under our constitution from article 14 to 18, article 14 to 18. These are the article will be coming under the group of fundamental right. Fundamental rights in India starting from article 12 to 35, and the first fundamental rights, that is right to equality. This right to equality is guaranteed under article 14 to 18 and is classified into different 5 provisions. Article 14 deal with the concept of equality before law, equal protection of the law. Article 15 provided one rights, that is prevention of discrimination. Then article 16 provided to the Indian citizen equal opportunity in public employment, and article 17 dealing with abolition of untouchability, and article 18 dealing with abolition of titles. All these articles guarantee a fundamental right to us, that is right to equality. So, our constitution recognizes these concepts, and this objectivity even it is mentioned in our preamble, and it is a core principle that is guaranteed and mentioned in our Indian constitution. That is all with respect to constitutional provision that we have with respect to the concept of equality. Then we will continue. This is not to say that the inequality ceases to exist. It does not mean by that we do not have any situation here, we do not have any issues associated with this inequality and discrimination. Still, even though this constitution has recognized this right and the concept of equality, that everyone should be treated equally before law, but still we face many equality and other discrimination in India, and there are legal system and procedure is there to address that problem in a different way. So, that is also mentioned here. So, it doesn't, so but at least in a democratic India, the principle of equality of all persons is recognized, while earlier no law existed to protect people from discrimination and ill treatment. Now there are several that works see that the people are treated with dignity and as equal. So, previously before the commencement of the constitution, before we got independence, there was no any legal system that guaranteed and protected that everyone will be treated as equally and it will respect their dignity. But with the enactment of the constitution, it is officially recognized in our law, that is there is a concept equality, that everyone is equal before the law. So, with that recognition that we enjoy some legal protection if there is any kind of discrimination of even if there is any inequality in terms of gender, in terms of religion, in terms of the caste, we can challenge in court of law since it is recognized as a fundamental right. So, we can challenge in court of law. So, the court will interpret this case. If there is any violation, then we will get a justice. So, this is important and significance of recognizing the concept of equality by the constitution. Now, we will continue with the other paragraph here. This recognition of equality include some of following provisions. So, there are many provisions that is mentioned in the constitution. This is summarized in this paragraph. This recognition of equality include some following provisions in our Indian constitution. The first provision is that every person is equal before the law. That is a concept known as equal protection of the law. Equal protection of the law. No, एक minute. Yeah, the first concept that every person is equal before law, that is equality before law. Equality before law. This concept is mentioned under article 14 of Indian constitution, and it also have another concept that I have mentioned, that is equal protection of the law. So, we have two concepts. One is actually originally a British concept, that is equality before law. Everyone will be treated equally in front of the law. That is originated in British, and that concept is also adopted in our constitution, that is no one will be enjoying any special privilege. Everyone will be treated equally, absence of privilege. That is the direct meaning of the concept equality. Under Article 14, the Constitution mentioned this provision, this concept, equality before law. Every person is equal before the law. Then another concept is the equal protection of the law, that is originally a US concept, where everyone will be equally protected according to the circumstances. The circumstances means they are either deprived, they are vulnerable, they are marginalized, maybe because of gender, maybe because socially, educationally, economically backwardness. So, we will protect them through the system, through the legal system. So, equal protection of the law is also guaranteed under our Article 14. So, that is originally a US concept, which is a positive concept. So, we can see the negative concept, that is equality before law, the positive concept equal protection of the law in Indian Constitution. So, the first provision that we can say that it include every person will be treated equally before the law, that is from the president, the first citizen of India, from the president of this country to the at the lower level, any person, domestic work, any person working at the any category of work, everyone will be treated equally before the law. If any things to be done, then if any law has to be treated, everyone should be equally. So, there will not be any special privilege available to any person belonging to be, maybe because of their religion is different, maybe because of their language is different, because maybe because they are a person belonging to higher caste, they will not enjoy any special privilege. The legal system, the laws will be applicable to everyone equally. No one will be enjoying any special privilege, special treatments. So, absence of the privilege is a direct meaning of the concept equality. The second one is, no person can be discriminated against on the basis of their religion, race, caste, place of birth. This is there in our Constitution under Article 15. Article 15 of Indian Constitution prohibit discrimination on the ground only of the religion, caste, race, place of the birth. These are the ground mentioned under Article 15 that prohibit discrimination. So, the concept of equality that we have in our Indian Constitution, that guarantee a fundamental right to equality, also include prohibition of the discrimination, preventing discrimination. If you are discriminated in the base of religion, race and caste and place of birth, then this also considered as a violation of your fundamental right. You can challenge in court of law. So, through this provision, our Constitution also prohibit any form of discrimination to ensure equality, that is everyone will be treated equally. Now, the next one is the third one, every person has an access to all public places. Within Article 15 there is subclause 2, 15 subclause 2 that dealing with that everyone should get an access to public services and public places. If there any discrimination on on the form of like religions or the race or caste, then such will be amount to discrimination. So, including applicable to private individual. So, access to restaurant. So, if anyone denied you your access to public restaurants because of your gender is different, you are a transgender, if they are not allowing you to travel in a public transport, that is amount to the discrimination. So, these are protected under Article 15, that is prohibition of discrimination. So, through this mechanism, through these provisions within our Constitution that prohibit any form of discrimination, through that it guarantee our rights, that is right to equality. So, it is mentioned here including playground, hotel, shops and markets. Then all person can use publicly available wells, road, bathing goods. The fourth one, that is untouchability, has been abolished. I already mentioned that under Article 17 of Indian Constitution that abolish any form of untouchability. Earlier the people were outside the caste system. So, there was a caste system, Varna system, when the four Varna system, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudras. Then another group was called as untouchable because they were not even part of the other four Varnas. So, they were considered as untouchable. If anyone touched them, they had the thought of like pollution and purity. So, this concept was there in our caste system that was existed in India. Later, when with the enactment of the Constitution, even Ambedkar was belonging to a Mahar community, a Dalit community, a untouchable community. So, he himself experienced this kind of inhuman treatment and discrimination. So, that when he was also part of the drafting committee for writing this Constitution, when we have enacted the Constitution, there was another article, Article 17, within the group of right to equality as one of the first fundamental right that abolish any form of untouchability. That is to be treated that everyone should be treated equally in front of the law, equality before law. Now, moving on to the next page in this NCERT chapter 1. So, there are the two ways in which the government has tried to implement the equality that is guaranteed in the constitution, first through the law and the second through government program and scheme. So, now so far we studied the constitutional provisions which is predominantly mentioned in our fundamental rights, part 3 of Indian constitution. First fundamental right, right to equality, that guarantee a right and that prohibit discrimination, that abolish untouchability. So, there is a directive principles DPSP in our Indian constitution that also has given a direction to the state to ensure welfare states. To achieve welfare state also, the state has to take an effort through law, through legal system, through initiative, through program to address this kind of discrimination, inequality to achieve welfare state. Everyone welfare is important. So, when the state has given a direction under DPSP, Directive Principle of State Policy in Indian constitution, then the next paragraph here is explaining how the government is trying to implement the concept of equality here. One is through making law. So, one is through making law, the government through the parliaments. So, we have at the union level parliament, at the state level we have state legislature. So, they have the division of power results, since we are following a federal form of government, that is union list, concurrent list, state list. If any law listed under a union list, any subject is listed under union list, then parliament can make a law on these subjects. If any subject is listed under state list, then state legislature can enact laws. Then there is concurrent list. If any subject is listed on concurrent list, state legislature alone or the parliament alone can enact law on these matters. So, these are the list, separation, division of the power, which is listed under our 7th schedule of Indian constitution through these laws. Then second way is that is through introducing schemes and program, maybe at the state level, maybe at the national level. Through this program and scheme, this is addressing the problem, this is addressing the issues that we face and ensure equality in India. Mainly because there is another concept I told you, equal protection of the law, equality before law. I will explain that what is the difference between the equality before law and equal protection of the law through this illustration. Just I am taking the simple illustration here. For example, there is a wall is here, you can take this as assume as a wall, he is here. There is a match is going on the other side, there is a match is going on, maybe a football match or maybe a cricket match, and here also there is a wall, the same picture, there is a football match is going on. So, you want to see the match, then in this case how if the system that we follow, if equality before law, when we follow equality before law, how we can ensure the access to that, the how and what way that people can see that. So, when we are treating everyone equally, that everyone will be given, everyone will get the same equal treatment. So, everyone will get the same platform to stand on that platform to see the match. Just an illustration only. So, these are the platform which we have given. Then any persons coming here, for example, if any person is coming in there, for example, a person with a higher privilege, maybe with economically advanced, so they will be able to see the match. Maybe another section of the people, maybe women, they are disadvantaged section because of a patriarchal society. They are told to not to go outside, not to go for jobs, such things will be there. So, this has affected their equal access. So, they will be treating in equally also, they will also treated equally. Then differently abled means they may not be able to see the match properly because they cannot even stand up to that platform. So, the differently abled may not be able to stand and watch the matches. So, when we are treating everyone equally in front of the law, equality before law, I am trying to draw it here somehow, yes, we can understand that. So, there is a concept under article 14 of Indian constitution, everyone will be treated equally before the law, that is equality before law, originally a British concept. So, everyone will get the same platform here, everyone will get the same platform, no one will get any advance, any like any reservation, nothing is there. So, everyone will have to use the same platform to get that access, but the problem is that those who are already in a privileged position or an advanced community, they will be able to see the match. Male member, so in a patriarchal society, the male members are the privileged community, so they will be able to get the access to that services. But if the woman will face discrimination because woman in a disadvantaged position, so they will not be able to watch the same match in a proper way. The differently able, require a different support, then only they will be able to see the match. So, the problem with the equality before law is that there is no equity. To ensure equity in delivery of the public services, so then our governments through the constitutional provision under Article 14 itself, it provide another concept known as, it mentioned another concept known as equal protection of the law. Equal protection of the law. Equal protection of the law means that if you are already in a privileged position, does not require any assistance, then there will not be any assistance given to you. You just have to stand up and watch the match. There is no assistance is given to you. If you are a woman, then you will get some assistance, maybe through reservation, maybe through policy, maybe through program. This will help you to get access if you are a woman. For example, we have enacted a new Constitutional Amendment Act very recently, 106th Amendment Act, that provided for 33% reservation for women to the Lok Sabha, Legislative Assembly and Delhi Legislative Assembly. Previously, we already adopted through the 73rd and 74th Amendment, 1/3 reservation will be available to women in the Panchayat and Municipality election. Similarly, the reservation is available to SC, ST community, EWS reservations for example. Reservation is not a fundamental right, but through this policy providing an affirmative and positive discrimination through this reservation, we can ensure these community belonging to this marginalized community, belonging to this vulnerable community, they were able to get an access to these public services. So, differently abled will get a separate infrastructure. Now, we have like the Accessible India campaign. So, that is every public institutions. So, there should be separate infrastructure accessible for differently able. So, through this different infrastructure and facilities available to them, they will also able to see the match properly. So, some financial assistance, some reservation will be given to them. So, through this way, when we are equally protecting each person according to their circumstances, then everyone is equally protected before the law. So, there is another concept that is under Article 14 of Indian Constitution, that is dealing with equal protection of the law, originally a US concept, which ensure equity. Equity. So, this how the concept can be explained in a simple way. So, these are the two concepts that we have in our Indian Constitution. The directive principles, that the directive principles of state policy, again another provisions of Indian Constitution listed under Part 4 of Indian Constitution, Part 4 of Indian Constitution coming under Article 36 to 51 dealing with directive principle. These are direction given to the states. Through this direction given to the states, enacting law or introducing this program, this is addressing any problem, any issues faced by the disadvantaged community, vulnerable community, marginalized community. That is mentioned here. I hope you have understood the basics about what is equality. The two concepts that we have in our Indian Constitution, one is the concept like equality before law, then another is equal protection of the law. I think it is clear for you. Now, we will continue. There are several laws in India that protect every person right to be treated equally. In addition to the law, government has also set up several schemes to improve the life of the community and individual who have been treated unequally for several centuries, and these schemes are ensure a greater opportunity for the people who have not had in the past. So, that is I told you that historically, socially they were backward. So, to address the problem of this community, later we have enacted many policy program, even through laws we have given reservation to this community, and through the reservation we ensured an equity in delivery of the public services. So, this act ensured that everyone will be treated equally before the law, and everyone is getting everyone is protected equally before the law. So, for explaining these things, they have given an example in this particular chapter. Since this is a 7th standard Ncert, they have given an example which is connected with the students, that is midday meal schemes. So, midday meal scheme initially started in Tamil Nadu. So, concept that is they will give a meal in a school, in the lunch meal will be provided, because in the earlier things when many people are facing like problem like poverty and hunger, even family are finding very difficult to earn an income to sustain their life and to provide education for their children, and we guaranteed right to education for the children later also through the provision. Then we have amended the Constitution 86th Amendment that added one fundamental right, that is right to education, elementary education from 16 to 14 years of age of the children. Then before that even we had a scheme, a program designed by Tamil Nadu government. Later we have implemented at the national level midday meal scheme. Now it is known as Poshan Abhiyan. Poshan Abhiyan. Through this scheme, we are providing a lunch meal to the students in the elementary level schools. They will get a meal in the school. So, their nutrition level, their health is also like protected. So, that this will encourage the students to get enrolled in the school. So, the two objectivity of the midday meal scheme is that, so one is increasing enrollment, their like economic or poverty situation or famine situation is not affected their access to education. So, that they will get the meal in the school itself. Through that, it is addressing the health and other requirement of a child. So, the healthy development children is also another direction in our DPSP. So, this has achieved that objectivity of enrollment into the elementary schools and the primary school, and also increased the health of the children. So, this is the main objective that we have under midday meal schemes. Now, you can see the content is mentioned here. One of the steps taken by the government include midday meal schemes. This refers to the program introduced all government elementary school to provide children with a cooked meals in the lunch time. The Tamil Nadu was the first state started with this initiative. Then in 2001, the Supreme Court asked the state government to begin this program in their school within 6 months, and this program had many positive implications, and this include the fact that the more poor children have begun enrolling and regularly attending school, because the food was a major problem for them. So, teachers also reported that earlier the children would often go home for lunch and then not return, because morning they will come to the school and they will go back to the home for lunch, and after that they will not be returning coming to the school. Now, with the midday meal scheme is available in the school itself, so they are attending the classes even afternoon. So, their mothers also happy now, because they had interrupted their work to feed their children at home during the day. Now, there is no longer need to do so. That this program has also helped to reduce, this is very important one, the caste prejudices. That is, the children in this group of age in a school, that is irrespective of the caste, they will sit together, because they will take this meal from the school, and this meal will be available to all the children in this school, and they will get it and they will eat it together. So, earlier we had a kind of a like prejudices that no one will be ready to sit with like eating food with another person belonging to a different caste. This caste discrimination was so, but now with the introduction of this midday meal scheme, now in a school days, in a schools where the children will get this meal from the school itself, and they will sit together and they will eat it together. This has addressed that problem. But even in some cases that we have seen some news related to that, discrimination is faced by mainly by Dalit students, Dalit the students belong to Dalit community or vulnerable community. Now, these meals mostly will be prepared by the women belonging to Dalit community. So, they are getting an opportunity, and the food prepared by the vulnerable community, nobody has any problem. So, this had another impact in terms of when we refer to this concept of equality, this had that much positive implication, positive impact when we have this kind of program like Poshan Abhiyan, midday meal schemes. Now, we are moving to next one. While government programs play an important role in increasing equality of opportunity, there is much and that still need to be done. So, this is again, even though these are the concepts that we have in our constitution, this is the program that the government has been launched, but still there are issues. While the midday meal program helped increase in the enrollment and attendance of the poor children in a school, that this then there continues to be a big differences in our country, that is between the school that rich are attending and the poor are attending. So, the school mostly the poor students, the person belonging to the poor family, they usually go to the and they will take admission in the government institutions. So, then another category of these children maybe in all India level, when we are referred to this case, the students who will be taking admission to private and in aided school where the rich students are joined. So, even we have a kind of a gap between the school which are mostly the rich students are coming and the poor students are coming. There is still a differences is there, which can be considered as an issue that is associated with the concept of equality. That is, an issue is mentioned in this paragraph, that is I have highlighted here. So, you can also read about these points. So, you can also note it down. Even today, there are several schools in our country which Dalit students, Dalit children are discriminated against and treated unequally. For example, even teachers in some school that we have seen some news recently, the teachers has beaten like even it cannot be, it is not legally permitted for the teachers to punish the students even if they have not following the direction given by the teachers. In that case, we have seen that the punishment by a teacher if the students are belonging to the vulnerable community, Dalit community. So, Dalit children are most of the cases in India, we have seen the news that report that discriminated against them because of their caste is different, their way of life is different, their language is different. So, these issues should be addressed immediately. These children are forced into unequal situation in which their dignity is not respected. That is, every person, that is, we are a human being, so everyone is our fellow human being. We must have that kind of sense of brotherhood, and fraternity concept should be there. When everyone will be treated equally before the law, it should be that the person should also think in that way. Our thought process should have that kind of like concept that okay, I am also human being and another person is also human being, and our thought will be different, our religion will be different, our caste will be different, the place of birth will be different, but there is no difference. We and other persons are a fellow human being, and everyone has their own unique character, and everyone has their own dignity and self-respect. So, we have to give them that respect and dignity. If that is violated, this kind of inequality will be there. So, these issues also mentioned in this paragraph. We are moving to the next paragraph here. One of the main reasons for this inequality, that is mainly the attitude change, that is very slow. So, it is due to mainly the attitude that we have some stereotypes, some prejudices towards any community, any person belonging to a lower level or minority community or maybe marginalized community. We have that kind of an attitude, a mindset is there, that mindset has to be changed. If that change is very slow, these issues will be repeated. Even though the persons are aware of the discrimination which is go against constitution, which against the law, they still practice that, they still continue that they treat people unequally on the basis of their caste, religion, disability, economic status, because they are women like this way in terms of gender perspective. If their gender attitude is different, for example, they only prefer male, then their attitude will be different, their actions will be different, and they will discriminate the woman, and they will consider woman as only an object, so not as a human being. This will resulting into humiliation, human treatment, and sexual harassments like that, and dignity will be violated. So, it is only when people begin to believe that no one is inferior, nobody is above, nobody is inferior, and that every person deserves to be treated with dignity, and that present attitude can be changed. Establishing equality in a democratic society is a continuous struggle, and one in which individual as well as the various community in India contribute to, and you will read more about in this book. So, that is again mentioned in this particular paragraph. So, here this has explained that and how do we have a concepts and the concept of equality in our Indian democracy, and what our constitution laws are mentioned regarding the equality. So, this is a paragraph, this is a topic that is covered in this particular area. Now, we are moving to next the aspects that is mentioned in this chapter regarding the concept of equality, the issues of equality in other democratic countries. So, India is one of the democratic countries that we have. There are other countries which they are also following a democratic system. One such example that they have given here is US. So, the issues of equality in other countries. The truth is that the many democratic countries around the world, the issues of inequality still continues and be the key issue around which community struggles. For example, here they have given an example of United States of America. There are African American community live in the US, and US is the oldest democratic country, oldest written constitution that we have in US. So, US had an oldest written constitution and the oldest democratic country. Still the people belonging to these African Americans, so the migrant, and they have these ancestral community belonging to Africa, and their race will be different. So, there was a racial discrimination faced by the African Americans. So, the story was explained here. So, the host ancestors were the slaves and who were brought over from Africa continue to describe their life today as largely unequal. This despite the fact there was a movement in the late 1950s to push for the equal right of the African American. So, 1950s there was a massive movement happened in the America for their right to the equality, especially for the African Americans. So, they had faced many racial discrimination in America. So, it was started primarily, there was an example given prior to this, the African American were treated extremely unequally in the United States and denied equality through the law. For example, when they are traveling by bus, they either had to sit at the back of the bus or get up from their seat whenever a white person wished to sit. So, if a white person coming into the same public transport, if you are a person belonging to the black race, then you have to stand up and you have to leave that seat for that person. So, the preference has been given to the white person. So, racial discrimination on the basis of white and black skin color. Based on the color of the skin, the race that we have. So, it was a racial discrimination. So, this was started later led to a movement there. So, Rosa Parks and was an African American woman and tired from a long day at work, and she refused to give because she was coming from a work after tired from a long day at work. She refused to give up her seat on a bus when a white man on December 1, 1955 came. Her refusal that day started a huge agitation against the unequal wage the African American faces in US, and that led to a massive agitation in the US, that was civil rights movement. This civil rights movement led to enactment of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that prohibited the form of discrimination on the basis of race and religion, natural and origin. So, before this, even our constitution originally provided for a provision separately for the prohibition of discrimination. So, our concept of equality is wider as we compare with the US system. So, this example has been given in this chapter. So, there was a UPSC question previously, that is there was a UPSC question in the mains examination. It was asked about compare and contrast the concept of equality in India and US. So, our constitution originally had mentioned the concept of equality, that is two way. One is British concept of equality before law and the US concept of equal protection of the law. But US constitution follow equal protection of the law, and they are not giving any other like extended provisions including prohibited discrimination originally. Later they have amended and they have enacted the law, Civil Rights Act, etc. This lacked prohibited discrimination, and even today the US does not have such a reservation system that we are guaranteed in India to address the problem of inequality and to ensure equity through this concept of equality before law and equal protection of the law. So, that is why this topic is very relevant for our main perspective aspects. And there is some quote has been given in this chapter, that is a statement of the Ambedkar. It is disrespectful to live a cost of one's self-respect. So, here he has given more important for the every person has a dignity, and we have to treat every person equally before the law, and we have to treat everyone equally, and we should have the sense of brotherhood and fraternity doctrine. So, then only the attitude would change, and when our attitude would change, then only we can treat everyone as equals, irrespective of the caste, irrespective of the religion, irrespective of the place of birth, etc. So, the story of African America, even today also you have seen that recently in 2020 there was an incident happened in America, the Black Lives Matter, on the context of George Floyd. Another person belonging to black race, and he was murdered by the police institution itself, the police brutality. So, there was a massive agitation again in the recent time in the US, there was Black Lives Matter movement. So, it was an incident that occurred in the US, the country that even faced. So, whatever we say that even though the rights are there, still this community in the marginalized community in these countries are fighting, and they are struggling to for a high level and a continuous level to ensure that they must be treated equally before the law, they must get equal respect and dignity. So, that is mentioned here in this particular chapter. Challenges of democracy. The next aspects in this chapter is covered regarding the challenges of democracy. Challenge of democracy. No country can be described as being completely democratic. Even though they are a democratic country, but it is not a completely democratic. There are always communities and individuals trying to expand their idea of democracy and push for a greater recognition of equality and existing as well as new issues. Central to this issue is the struggle for recognition of all persons as equal and for their dignity to be maintained. In this book, you will read about this issue, equality affects various aspects of our daily life in democratic in India. As you read these chapters, think about whether the equality of all persons and they are being able to maintain their dignity upheld. So, this is a summary, the conclusion that they have given in to this chapter regarding the concept of equality. So, what we have understood that with this chapter they are trying to explain the concept of equality in India and the issues that we face, the issues of equality in other democratic country. For that they have given an example of America. Even today recently we have seen the example, the George Floyd case also. So, this article 15 I mentioned to you. So, in the earlier session in the paragraph when I was explaining the paragraph 1. So, this was they have given in detail with respect to article 15. So, we have article 15 dealing with the two provision. One is it is applicable against state, that the state shall not discriminate. State shall not discriminate against any citizen. So, this right is available to Indian citizen, cannot discriminate on the basis of only of religion, only means only on this ground, religion, race, caste, sex, place of the birth, like only, that means any other it can, there is no problem, but if any of these ground, if there is any discrimination, is a violation of article 15, we can challenge in court of law. Then subclause 2, it is applicable not only against states, it applicable to private individual, again available to citizen on the ground of religion, state like religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any other form that is subject to disability, liability, restriction, condition with respect to access to shops, public restaurants, hotel places, public entertainments, use of the wells, tanks, bathing goods, roads, places of birth. So, this is guaranteed under article 15. So, right to equality is recognized by our Indian constitution, and it is currently a fundamental right under article 15. Then it is prohibited, the prohibition of discrimination is covered under article 15. Equal opportunity in public employment is covered under article 16, abolition of untouchability is covered under article 17, abolition of title is covered under article 18. So, these group of articles cover the first fundamental right to equality, that you can study in detail also in our like Indian polity classes in detail, and we have our courses in with the Alchemy Ias. So, Indian polity separate exclusive classes are there, where we will cover in detail regarding the concepts of equality and other relevant articles of Indian constitution, fundamental rights in detail. So, exclusively referring to the Lakshmikant and other UPSC mains and prelims questions, etc. So, some exercise and questions are given here. We can just go through these questions, and I will not discuss much about, but you can also just go through these questions to understand the concept of equality. So, exercise here given to the students in school level at 7th standard. So, that was fun. In a democracy, why is universal adult franchise is important? So, again this is another example, universal adult franchise, that is everyone will be, if you are an Indian citizen, if you are above 18 years of age, under article 326, it guarantees a right to vote, a constitutional legal right, democratic right, that you can enjoy a right to vote if you are above 18 years of age and you have enrolled in the electoral roll, then you can cast your vote. So, irrespective of the religion, irrespective of the caste, language, place of the birth, if you are an Indian citizen, everyone can enjoy that right. It is a democratic right. It also ensures equality. So, they have given reference to with that in a democratic country, why is universal adult franchise system is important. So, indirectly or directly it is connected to the concept of equality. Next, reread the box on article 15 and state two ways in which this article address inequality. So, I told you that one is applicable against state, another is applicable against private individual, private institutions. So, both way that it prohibit discrimination. So, through prohibition discrimination, finally we can achieve equality. Nobody will be discriminated. So, any discrimination we can challenge in court of law. So, that is what exactly these concepts mean by, and these questions mean by. What do you understand by the term all persons are equal before the law? Why do you think that it is important in a democratic country? So, democracy means that everyone has equal participation, everyone voice, everyone representation is important, everyone should be considered equally. So, if we are a democratic country, that is this kind of government will form through an election where the people has a voice and people has a power. In a democratic country, we have to treat everyone equally, otherwise it cannot be called as a democracy. It will be only having a privilege to some community, some group. Then such a country cannot be called as a democratic country. One of the core value that a democratic country should follow, that the concept of equality, so that the law of the democratic country should treat everyone as equal. So, our constitution has recognized equality before law, everyone will be treated as equal. Then according to Right of Person with a Disability Act 2016, I told you that differently abled require different treatment, so that only they will get an equal access to services. So, we have a law and enacted by the parliaments, and best example for that. The person with disability have equal right, and that the government should make possible their full participation in society. The government has to provide free education, integrate children with a disability into mainstream school. These laws states that all public places including buildings, schools, etc. should be accessible to providing with them. So, again I told you there was a campaign that we have, Accessible India campaign. Every public institution, college, institution, hospital, courts, then these institutions must be accessible to persons even including differently able. So, this is the way that it has been given. Some photograph has been given here, and they have referred to that. Look at the photograph and think about the boy who is being carried down the stairs. Do you think that the above law is being implemented in this case? What need to be done to make the building more accessible for him? How would his being carried down the stairs affect his dignity as well as his safety? So, there is no an infrastructure provided in this institution to get an equal access for this person belong to different label. So, we should have a separate infrastructure, a lift facility should be provided. So, our infrastructure, our institution building etc. should be accessible to the Divyang, the differently able. Then only we can say we have an inclusive access to all the services. Some glossary, the glossary, that the keyword that is mentioned in this chapter has been mentioned and explained here in a shorter way. We can just go through that as well. This one I have explained: universal adult franchise system. It is a democratic right, legal constitutional rights, and in our constitution article 326 dealing with that. Then dignity was mentioned in this chapter, that refers to the thinking of oneself and other persons are worthy of respect. Everyone has their own unique and dignity, so we have to respect that. Constitution, it's a document that lays down the basic rules and regulations for the people, and the government is limited according to this constitution, and their powers are restricted and limited by the constitution that protect the liberty and right of the people and will be treating everyone as equal, and there is a principle of rule of law. Civil rights movement, so it's a movement that began in US in 1950s with the African American people demanded for their equal treatments, and they finally ended the racial discrimination. Even though this was there, and civil right movement, and after that Civil Right Act was passed by the US, but recently we have seen in 2020 the George Floyd and other black people were like murdered by the police institution itself. The police brutality was discussed in the news. Black Lives Matter, such a movement was there in the news. So, this is all about the concept of equality that we have under our 7th standard NCERT chapter 1. We will continue with the next chapter in the upcoming classes. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for patiently watching this video. I hope you have got a clear clarity regarding the concept of equality, and thank you everyone. We will see you then. Bye.